Hello my lovely witches. I'm bringing a video to you today that I've been meaning to bring you for years. So I know I've talked about it before and I know I've responded to requests in comments to create a video about working with Bastet, and it's been on my to-do list for a long time, and finally it's here. Thank you for your opinion, Nefertiti. This could be very cat-related content, couldn't it, Neffy? Yes. So what you see in front of you are a bunch of items that I actually pulled off my devotional altar to Bastet that I have in my bedroom. I'm just going to pop this aside. That's the book that I have just completed, and I'm going to do a little flip through with you. But before I do that, I thought I'd talk about some of the things that I put on my altar, why I have it where it is, and how I work with this deity. So obviously Bastet is an ancient Egyptian goddess. When I was a very young child, I discovered her. My brother was into all things Egyptology, and we used to go to the museum in Adelaide, which is a pretty crappy museum, if I'm honest. And they had a very small room, which was the Egypt room, full of culturally appropriated items from Egypt. But at the time, as a kid, I thought it was basically the coolest thing in the museum, the only room to visit in the museum. And it was really interesting. And that was when, you know, as a kid who adored cats from birth practically, I was so excited to discover that there was a goddess, a deity of cats, patroness of cats. Are you kidding me? How cool was that? So she's a goddess that I guess in a sense I've been working with for a really, really long time, like since childhood. I started to collect, you know, statues related to her as a child. I don't have very many of those left now, but I have some. And, you know, I devoured everything I could about her. So in my bedroom, because she is a goddess associated with nurturing, peace, and sleep even, she has a lot of associations, which we'll get to. I work with her primarily as a goddess for those reasons. Also, obviously, because I have cats. So I have a little shrine to her on a small little shelf on the wall above my bed. And I have things like, this is a soapstone statue of Bastet. I have a whole bunch of cat statues. I haven't got everything. I didn't take everything off the altar and bring it in here. Not that there's a lot of room on it, but it is a little sort of cupboard, so it's got shelves. There's actually a picture of it in the book, so I'll be able to show it to you. And I have, you know, this one was just a resin one that I actually spray painted purple. I personally associate the colours purple, pink and blue with her. For reasons of, well, and green. Pink being, and green being nurturing, sort of heart-centered, heart chakra colours. And blue being for healing, because she's also a goddess of healing. And purple for that peaceful sleep sort of correspondence. So I have a purple one, this little sort of purpley pink one that I made from resin. I'm just going to pop these up here. I hope that doesn't make things wobble. So I have a number of specifically Bastet statues. I also have some just cat trinkets up there. I did have a cat toy as an offering to her, but my cats kept taking it. So and that's okay, because the ancient Egyptians believed that cats were actually the physical embodiment of the goddess on earth. So if my cat's taking it, I guess she's receiving her offering. I also have made these two little sort of altar tiles, I guess, that I have sitting on that little shrine. This one of an ankh, which is one of her symbols, and this one of her, which I think I actually showed in both of these in a previous sort of art witch show and tell. And this is another resin piece of a Sphinx cat that I made out of resin a while back. I quite like the fact that this sort of ties in with my Celtic path, because this is a Celtic triquetra. Yep, mashing it up a little bit. She is a goddess of the moon. So I have this selenite moon that also sits on her altar. And she's also a goddess of the sun, especially the rising sun. So I made this little statue of her with a sort of a sun disc, just out of sort of papier-mâché and a plastic bottle. I neglected to put something heavy inside her, so she tips over really easily. So she has to be kept well out of the way of kitty cats. So this was actually from a tutorial by Molly Roberts, and you'll see, I think she has this same tutorial in her book Art Magic. So if you're interested in making something similar for your own deity or any other purpose, check out that book, or I think the tutorial was actually on her Patreon. So, and I also have, because it being Egypt and the pyramids, I have this little pyramid shaped shelf, which I actually keep various little items, such as these small statues of her on top of the little shelf. Pop that out the way. And this, again, I have shown you this in a previous video, but I'll show it to you again. This is a little scroll tube with her on the end, and inside is a papyrus scroll with a prayer to her. And again, I'm still using those same sort of colours: the blue, the pink, the purple, the green. So that's some ways in which I have displayed things or created things for her altar. And now I'm going to show you the devotional book. So as I said, she's a deity of the sun and the moon. So I have this little sun and moon charm on the end with some little celestial beads. And I also have this sort of anthropomorphic cat figure as a representation of her. And I made this junk journal from a, what do you call those? Sort of like a bubble mailer envelope that came with something in it. This is an old buckle, antique buckle from my grandmother's stash, and some pink ribbon also from her stash. And then inside, I made this bookmark at least 20 years ago, maybe more, just with a piece of watercolor paper and some textures and my laminator. And I thought it was perfect to keep in my devotional book. This, I believe, is from a colouring book of goddesses, which I'm not sure who the author was, to be honest. I might need to, I'll see if I can find it. If I can, I'll link it. And then some little, little page with some information. I've just sort of gone through the first section, I suppose, or first half of this book is more research and information about who she is as a goddess. And the second part is more sort of spells and things that I either have or will use to work with her. So these are various names she's known by and the things she's goddess of. So she's also a goddess of pleasure, having a good time. So if you want to have some sort of party or celebration, she's a really good goddess to bless that and make it a success. As I said, she's a goddess of health and healing. She's a protective goddess, very specifically of women and children. But she's a great household protector as well. There's a little bit of information on her sort of origins. She's the daughter of Ra and Isis. These are offerings that you can give her. She loves anything cat related, so obviously I have lots of cat things on her altar. I think traditionally her colour associations are yellow, gold, green, sort of warm colours. She's been linked with and sometimes seen as two aspects of the same deity as Sekhmet. Little art piece. This is a little, I'll show you, the next page has some little cards. This is one that I made and I will show it to you, even though I have written this wrong. It should say hieroglyphs, not hieroglyphics, because hieroglyphics is the term for what they are. A hieroglyph is the actual symbol. But anyway, they're the hieroglyphs for Bast. So I created a little card with those on them, and you could definitely use her hieroglyphs in art magic for her. This is just from a goddess oracle deck, Independence. And she is very much about independence. I think it's that she's got this very gentle, sweet nature, but at the same time, there's an aspect of her that's quite fierce, and that's her sort of more protective aspect. Some more information on her and her powers. This was from a book called Goddess Magic by Aurora Kane. This is a printable I purchased on Etsy. Again, if I can find it still, if it's still up there, I can find it, I will link it. And some more information coming from the Book of Goddesses by Roni J, which is, I think, probably out of print. It's one of my favourite books ever, but it would be over 20 years old, I would think. And yeah, it's about a whole lot of different goddesses. It's got some really beautiful rituals in it, and some good information, but it's, if I can find it, I'll link it, but I suspect it's out of print. And then this is, I think, the colouring page from that colouring book as well. This is actually a painting of mine that I did about 10 or 15 years ago. This is a cat of mine. She's not been with us for a long time. She died quite some time ago, Mischief. And I decided to paint a painting of her as the embodiment of Bastet. And it's been sitting in a drawer for a long time, and I decided it would be good to just, you know, I often do that with my art. I'll cut it up and I'll put it into books, or create it into collage artwork. And so that's what I did with this one. Then really the only other thing I kept was the lotus flowers here. And then we have a prayer to Bastet from that printable with some collage and stickers and stuff. This is from the Egyptian Book of the Dead. Bast, beloved, banish all our fears. Mother of the gods, no gods existed till thou camest there and gave them life. Some little hieroglyphs as well. Another, this is a goddess information card on Bastet. She's described variously, and I think that's because language changes over time and in translations. So I tend to refer to her as Bastet. but I'll use Bast fairly interchangeably with that as well. These are some symbols of hers. The sistrum is a very common symbol to see in her statuary. She would rattle the sistrum as a sort of protective measure. And a bit later on in this book, you'll see I've written down a ritual from that same, what I think is out of print, goddess book about protection from nightmares and using a rattle in that. So cats, lionesses, moon, sun. The ointment jar and the ankh are the other two symbols, very sort of specifically Egyptian symbols that are associated with her. And this is where we get into the rituals and things. This is a ritual for gentleness from that book. And I really like it. It's an art spell, even though that book is not specifically about art magic. It has quite a number of little rituals that involve some artistic elements to them. And this one is to create a drawing of a cat on a circle of tracing paper or acetate and stick it to a window where the moonlight will shine through it and spread gentleness. This is a picture of I might see if I can bring it closer up to the camera for you, of the little shrine that I have in my bedroom above my bed. And a picture of Godric, just because, well, you know, I wouldn't want to create a book to Bastet without a picture of my one-eyed monster. Unfortunately, Neffy didn't actually make it into the book. I'm sorry, Neffy. Maybe next time. This is a little bit of information on suggestions to set up an altar for her. Asking Bastet for guidance, healing and protection. As I said, she's very, very protective goddess, so she's a great one to invoke for that. And having fun. Bastet loves a good time, so music and dance are often used as a sort of an offering to her as well. If you want to honor her, get dancing, put some loud music on. Another oracle card of Bast about play, and that's the other thing, she that sort of playful element definitely comes in. When you think about cats, even very old adult cats still play, and I think that's something that we can take from them and embody and bring into our own lives. This is the protection from nightmares ritual using a rattle. If you have or create a sistrum, I've always wanted to create a sistrum. One day I will. My plan is to create one with shells and little metal discs, but it's one of those projects that sits in my to-do list like so many others. Anyway, so I do have a rattle. I have a really nice rattle made from a gourd, made by an amazing art witch called the Kynoch Witch, Tay, the Kynoch Witch, and it's got a lioness on it. Actually, it's not a lioness. I'm telling a lie. It's a leopard. I purchased it because of my craft name being Corrigan Moon Leopard, but I think that leopard feline energy is perfect to use for this ritual. This is cut from a magazine, some information about Bast's blessings and feline familiars. This is a ritual oil for Bastet that I use, and often will use it as sort of both an offering to her, and also I might use it on my pulse points before I go to sleep. This is something I want to do, and that's create a cat-shaped poppet and fill it with herbs sacred to Bastet and carry it for protection. So that's on my witchy art magic to-do list. Working with Bastet for nurturing and self-care, sleep spells, half magic and kitchen witchery, protection spells and healing work. Also for moon rituals, particularly, I think she's mostly associated with the crescent moons, so the waning and waxing crescent moons. Toast Bastet with a glass of red wine. Red wine is a common offering to her. This is an incense blend to honour Bastet. I don't tend to burn incense in my bedroom, but if I am doing some sort of ritual for her at my main altar, I will burn something like this incense. Or, for example, doing that spell just recently to assist with the safe return of a friend's cat who went missing. I will, you know, use something like this as well. Another little pockets section that I actually plan on doing more with, but for now that will do. Anoint a yellow candle with Bastet's ritual oil and light it to honour her or invoke her. Bastet is commonly invoked for deep sleep, peace and gentleness. She is a nurturer, and she's often, her statuary is quite often shown with kittens and a basket to carry them in. Another way that you can honour Bastet and work with her is to donate bedding, food or money to a cat shelter as a form of offering to her. Or adopt a cat. That's a pretty obvious but also pretty special, pretty big one to do for her. This is a list of herbs and crystals associated with her and food offerings for her. If you want to make a sort of ritual meal to honour her, then she's all about red meat and seafood. She also likes sweet things like chocolate, honey, pastry. She loves grains and she loves onions, and really just serve it with a glass of red wine or beer. Or if you're a non-alcohol drinker, tea or obviously milk. Because despite the fact that many cats are lactose intolerant, they love milk. And that's it. That's my little Bastet devotional book, which, as I have mentioned, this has been on my I haven't finished list for so many videos, and I have finally finished it. So Bastet just kind of plopped herself into my life and said, hey, guess what? You want to finish that book for me? And so I did. So I hope you've enjoyed this little chat about how I work with Bastet. Obviously, everyone works differently and individually with their deities. Bastet's been a sort of an ever-present goddess in my life ever since, as I said, I was a small child. So she's just kind of there in the background, and she's always got my back. So I do like to particularly invoke her for healing, protection, sleep, and, you know, general sort of self-care and nurture. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye bye.